right now is I'm very into the universe, you know. Solar system is so humongous big, right?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
We talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Not the game that I go out there and die for.
You like that? You like that?
It's not the game. We talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Stay classy, San Diego, Philadelphia.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2 of the Sports Hipster podcast. I hope you guys all had a great weekend and a great Halloween. It was freezing in Hamilton, but we got a lot of kids and gave out a lot of candy and ate a lot of candy, and it was good. Saw a lot of interesting costumes and a lot of unoriginal costumes. The popular one was 11 from Stranger Things. I went to a buddy's Halloween party on Saturday, and there were 3 11s there, both with the wig and without, and of course with a box of Eggo waffles underneath their arm. I mean, you totally knew that 11 would be this year's Left Shark from the Katy Perry Super Bowl performance. So, saw a lot of pirates, which I feel like every year there's a bunch of pirates. Same thing with like cats. It's like pirates and cats are like the Halloween staples for adults, kids. It doesn't matter. Everyone seems to always go to the pirate or the cat costume in a pinch. And was surprised though that I didn't see a lot of Trump or Hillary costumes. So I was really surprised that I didn't see more Hillary and Donald out there trick-or-treating and at parties. Another costume that I didn't see a lot of, or actually any, thankfully, was Jared Leto's Joker from the Suicide Squad. I love the story of Batman and the Joker and that whole world. There's just too much going on in Jared Leto's Joker. Like, why can't it just be like back in the day in Tim Burton's original Batman movie? You know, Jack Nicholson as the Joker just had the purple suit, the white face, the big creepy red smile, and the slick back green hair. Like, that's it. That's all you needed. It was perfect. And now with this, you got the teeth, and you got the tattoos, and you got the really exaggerated gestures and phrases, and it's just too much. But yeah, sorry, I just went off on a tangent there, but stop messing with the classics. Anyway, it was a big weekend in sports. Some dramatic finishes to games. We had some really good football. We had some really good hockey. We had some not so good baseball, unless you're a Cleveland fan. But right off the hop here, I gotta share a story with you guys that I read over the weekend. So there's this couple from Kingston, Ontario, named Misty and Dave Amy, and they have 5 kids. Their 5th child was actually born last Thursday. And they named her Kadri Lee, after Maple Leaf center Nazem Kadri. Now that in itself isn't totally out of the ordinary, but this couple's 4 other kids have the namesake of other Leafs players. So one's named Justice Tucker, after Darcy Tucker. Another one is named Angel McCabe, after Brian McCabe. Another one is named Domi, after Ty Domi. And lastly, we have Colton Orr Amy, after, of course, Colton Orr. Now that is some crazy dedication and passion for your team. And so, like, I'm reading through this and I'm thinking, like, how in the world did this guy's wife let him do that? And sure enough, as I was reading through the article towards the end, she's quoted as saying, "All of the names were my husband's idea." Well, yeah. I wish my wife would let me name kids after my favorite athletes. I'd have a whole bunch of them just so I could call them Gallagher, Welker, Pat Borders, Olerud, you name it. Now, much is already being made about the fact that goals per game in the NHL this season are going down to 2.84 goals per game, and goalie save percentages are creeping back up to around 9-10. Now, the NHL season is barely 10 games old. Actually, only Detroit and Philly have played 10 games going into tonight's schedule. It's a little early to start pulling up stats and griping about the fact that teams aren't playing 10-goal hockey games. This is how a typical NHL season goes. It's fire wagon hockey for the first 5-6 games, then teams settle in and start playing a more defensively sound system. And then, the guys who scored a bunch of goals in the first few games sort of level off as other teams get a beat on them and sort of figure out how to handle them. This is a typical start to the NHL season. Is Austin Matthews going to score 4 goals a game every game? No. He probably won't even score in every game. Are the Canadiens going to continue on this incredibly hot streak they're on right now? No. That's just how it goes. It's no shock to anyone. Me personally, I enjoy hockey games that are a little bit more about structure and systems and, not necessarily the super boring trap games that Minnesota and New Jersey used to play under Jacques Lemaire, but something a little bit more structured. So those pundits who hate the goals going down a little bit just need to chill out. Canadian women's hockey star Marie-Philippe Poulin will captain Canada at the Four Nations Cup, which kicked off today in Finland. This is a fantastic choice in my opinion. I still get goosebumps watching the highlight of Poulin scoring the gold medal winning goal in OT in Sochi. Michigan's Jabril Peppers became the first player in 10 NCAA seasons to have a rush attempt, reception, a sack, a kick return, and a punt return in the same game. The dude's a defensive back and he's getting kick and punt returns. Come on. Now he'll more than likely declare for the NFL draft next year, which means he'll probably be languishing in Cleveland next season. How brutal are the Browns? You thought they hit rock bottom with the Johnny Manziel saga, but they're 0-8 this season. They'll probably accomplish the reverse of what the 72 Dolphins did and record 0 wins and 16 losses. That city is lucky that LeBron brought them a championship, and they better pray that the Indians can close out the World Series tonight. Speaking of the World Series, Game 6 starts in about an hour or so, and the Indians are starting Josh Tomlin, and the Cubbies are going with Jake Arrieta. Now, if the Cubs have any hope of extending this thing to a Game 7, they better pray they can rack up at least 5 runs against Tomlin, because if Francona dips into that bullpen of his and brings out Miller or Shaw, it's lights out. And the Cubs may not have Chapman available to pitch tonight, and even if they do, it'll probably be a watered-down version of Chapman. He threw 42 pitches of pure smoke on Sunday. You gotta think that took a toll on that left arm of his. One last thing here. On Sunday, Washington Redskins kicker Dustin Hopkins missed a 34-yard field goal attempt with 2:13 left in OT. And they ended up tying the Bengals 27-27. Now, Josh Norman went on a tirade post-game, blaming, of course, the officials for flagging his team 15 times in the game. But, man, how does your kicker miss a field goal from 34 yards out? That's like the most standard of distances. That's your one job. You come up and kick the ball straight through the uprights. That's like a reliever or a closer coming into a ball game and never throwing a strike. That's what you do. That's your one job. Oh man, I've rattled myself. Getting back on track. Now I, like many Canadians, love hockey. It's a staple in most Canadian households. It's what we all want to put our kids in. It's what we obsess over. It's basically like a religion in this country. But some people may not realize that the game of hockey itself didn't come from Canada. So where did it come from? Well, lucky for you guys, I'm about to tell you. Next up on episode 2 of the Sports Hipster, I'm going to give you a little history of hockey. There's some pretty cool and interesting stuff in there, stuff that I didn't even know. Just a lot of really cool tidbits that I'm going to provide for you. And you guys also get to hear my storytelling voice. So, without further ado, here is the history of hockey. When you hear the word hockey, what's the first thing you think of? 6 a.m. practices, Tim Hortons coffee cup, Sidney Crosby with the golden goal. These are all very intrinsically Canadian things. But what if I told you hockey's origins aren't Canadian at all? They're not even North American, but from another continent entirely. If you Google hockey, you'd see many claims that the game was invented in Canada in 1875. This makes sense. Hockey is our game. All of the best hockey players come from Canada. There's even a nationally televised program called Hockey Night in Canada, where a senile xenophobe and his patient sidekick debate all things hockey. The game, however, was not born in Canada. Instead, its origins begin in Britain, a nation mostly known for football, or soccer for us North Americans. Hockey historians Carl Giddin, Patrick Huda, and Jean-Patrice Martel discovered evidence of the first hockey games taking place as far back as the 1790s. Canada may have had the first organized hockey leagues, but the game itself began across the pond. It wasn't only played by school children or random individuals. The game was played by some pretty prominent people. Famous naturalist Charles Darwin was known to enjoy a game or two of pond hockey. In a letter to his son, William Erasmus Darwin, dated March 1, 1853, Darwin recalled playing games on a frozen river in Shrewsbury, England.
My dear Willie, have you got a pretty good pond to skate on? I used to be very fond of playing hockey on the ice and skates.
The man who gave us a theory of evolution wasn't the only famous person in the mix. King Edward VII, King Albert, and the prince consort to Queen Victoria. In fact, researchers also discovered how the name hockey came to be. In the first games in England, the puck was made from a cork bung that was commonly used as a stopper in beer casks. At the time, hock ale was a popular drink. Put the two together, and you eventually get hockey. Now fast forward a decade or so, March 3rd, 1875 to be exact. The first organized indoor ice hockey game was played in Montreal at the Victoria skating rink. The game was played between two 9-player teams, including James Creighton and several other McGill University students. James Creighton, for those of you who don't know, is considered in Canada as the father of ice hockey, although he never claimed that honor himself. He's credited with organizing the first recorded indoor ice hockey game. He also helped popularize the sport in Montreal and later in Ottawa after he moved there in 1882, where he served for 48 years as the law clerk to the Canadian Senate. But I digress. Instead of a ball or a bung, the game featured a flat, circular piece of wood to keep it in the rink and to protect spectators. The goalposts were 8 feet apart, whereas today's goalposts are 6 feet wide, and maybe getting wider. In 1876, the first game played in Montreal was reportedly conducted under the Hockey Association rules. The Hockey Association was England's field hockey organization. In 1877, the Montreal Gazette published a list of 7 rules, 6 of which were largely based on 6 of the Hockey Association's 12 rules. The McGill University Hockey Club, the first ice hockey club, was founded in 1877, followed by the Montreal Victorias, which were organized in 1881. While the game's origins lie elsewhere, Montreal is at the center of the development of the sport of contemporary ice hockey. So next time a Leafs fan tries to tell you that Toronto is the center of the hockey universe, you may want to throw that little tidbit their way. The number of teams grew enough to hold the first World Championship of ice hockey at Montreal's annual Winter Carnival in 1883. The McGill team won the tournament and was awarded the Carnival Cup. The game was divided into 30-minute halves. The positions were now named left and right wing, center, rover, point and cover point, and of course, goaltender. In 1886, the teams competing at the Winter Carnival organized the Amateur Hockey Association of Canada and played a season comprising challenges to the existing champion. In 1888, the Governor-General of Canada, Lord Stanley of Preston, whose 5 sons and daughter were hockey enthusiasts, first attended the Montreal Winter Carnival tournament and was impressed with the game. In 1892, realizing that there was no recognition for the best team in Canada, he purchased a silver bowl for use as a trophy and called it the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup, which today you know it as the Stanley Cup. It was first awarded in 1893 to the Montreal Hockey Club, who were champions of the AHAC. Lord Stanley and the rest of his family were instrumental in bringing hockey to how we know it today. Stanley's son Arthur helped organize the Ontario Hockey Association, and Stanley's daughter Isabel was one of the first women to play ice hockey. By 1893, there were almost 100 teams in Montreal alone. There were also other leagues throughout Canada. Winnipeg hockey players used cricket pads to better protect the goaltender's legs. They also introduced the scoop shot, or what is known today as the wrist shot. William Fairbrother from Ontario is credited with inventing the hockey net in the 1890s. Goal nets became a standard feature of the Canadian Amateur Hockey League in 1900. Left and right defense began to replace the point and cover point positions in the OHA in 1906. By 1903, a 5-team league had been founded. The Ligue Internationale de Hockey sur Glace was founded in 1908 to govern international competition, and the first European championship was won by Great Britain in 1910. The sport grew further in Europe in the 1920s, after ice hockey became an Olympic sport. In the mid-20th century, the league became the International Ice Hockey Federation, which of course is the governing body for all international ice hockey competitions for men and women. Now, as the popularity of ice hockey as a spectator sport grew, earlier rinks were replaced by larger rinks. Most of the early indoor ice rinks have been demolished. The Stannis Street Rink in Windsor, Nova Scotia, which was built in 1897, is the oldest still in existence. Now, professional hockey has existed since the early 20th century. By 1902, the Western Pennsylvania Hockey League was the first to employ professionals, and called it the International Professional Hockey League. Very creative. WPHL and the IPHL hired players from Canada, and in response, Canadian leagues began to pay their players, who played with amateurs. The IPHL, cut off from its largest source of players, disbanded in 1907. By then, several professional hockey leagues were operating in Canada, with leagues in Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. In 1910, the National Hockey Association was formed in Montreal. The creation of the NHA is really when professional organized hockey started. You had players like Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe, and Wayne Gretzky cut their teeth in the National Hockey Association. The NHA is also credited with further refining the rules of the game. It dropped the rover position, divided the games into 3 20-minute periods, and introduced minor and major penalties. After reorganizing as the National Hockey League in 1917, the league expanded into the United States, starting with the Boston Bruins in 1924. Professional hockey leagues developed later in Europe, but amateur leagues leading to national championships were already in place. One of the first was the Swiss National League A, which was founded in 1916. Today, professional leagues have been introduced in most of the countries in Europe. Well, that does it for this episode of the Sports Hipster Podcast. Be sure to check out my website, the4check.com. That's THE4check.com. You can also find me on Twitter at the4check as well as Facebook. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. And until next week, go Cubs, go!